Hi there, it's Tamika with Children of Christ Homeschool. This is the first video that I've done in a while. It's been probably about 8 months or so since I've posted a video for my YouTube channel. But I wanted to come on and just kind of address some things that have been happening lately regarding my homeschool. So if you have a comfortable chair, go ahead and sit back. This is going to be a long video, but stick with me. I promise you it is going to be very interesting, and hopefully it will be helpful to someone. Um, if I'm looking down, it's because I have notes and I wanted to make sure that I don't forget some of the points that I want to mention in this video. So I've titled this video, Home Education, Our Ever Evolving Journey, for one simple reason. Because this journey has constantly changed over the years. I've been homeschooling now for about 8 years, just about, since my son, well, let me put it this way. I've been homeschooling officially since my son was school age, since he was 5 years old. Um, so that's been about 8 years now because he's 12 years old. But I consider myself a lifelong homeschooler of my son. So basically, I have been homeschooling him prior to birth. And I know that sounds crazy. Most people are like, "Ah, you homeschoolers are always over exaggerating." But it's true. You know, when you find out that you're pregnant, you read to your unborn child, and you sing and do different things. Yeah, that's homeschooling, baby. Okay, that's my baby was learning way before he even arrived here. Okay, and that's essentially what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about how homeschooling has changed for me and for him, for the both of us over the past few years. And before I get deep into that, I just want to give you a little bit of background about um, how we came to homeschool, why we homeschool. Before my son was born, 1997. Yeah, I know I'm going like way back. It's 2020 now, people, right? But 1997, I opened up my first daycare center in New York City at a home-based daycare in Brooklyn, New York, where I'm originally from, and that was always my plan. My plan was to homeschool my children while I did daycare, basically, and that's essentially what happened in 2008 when my son was born. So I had a small daycare in New York, a small Christian school that I had expanded to include ages kindergarten or grades kindergarten through fifth grade at that point, and I had also taught eighth through 10th grade as well in my homeschool. During that time, I wasn't calling it homeschool though. It was my daycare, and it wasn't Christian school or academy, basically, or elementary school until I started teaching older grades or much higher grades. But let's fast forward to the point where we are right now. I'm sorry, Xavier, you need to go ahead and do what you need to do. You need to take a shower. I'm sorry, but as you know, this never ends. We're constantly in, even when the camera's on or the camera's off, we are constantly being a parent. So you need to go and do that now. I'm sorry. So hopefully there won't be any more interruptions. So in any case, so fast forward 2008, we moved to, my son was born, and shortly thereafter, 2009, we moved to another state. We moved to the South, where we reside right now, and we loved it. I closed my school down, and I ended up having to open up another school, well, decided to open up another daycare in my home once I arrived in the South. And I waited until my son was about 2.5 years old. He was about 2.5 at that point when I decided to open up my daycare, my new location. And during that time, of course, I'm teaching and, well, I'm not technically homeschooling him. I am just being a daycare, provider at that point in time. Throughout that process, my son is learning, he is developing, and I noticed that he was not making certain milestones, probably about the age of about 15 months. Let me just backtrack just before we get to that. Before I opened up my daycare in my new location, we moved here. My son was about 13 months old, and so I noticed that he was not meeting certain milestones, developmental milestones that he should have been, um, in regards to speech. And so when he was about 15 months old, I, went to his pediatrician and asked her if, um, if she thought that it was necessary for speech therapy. And, oh, mommy, you're just being, overprotective, mom. He's not even 2 years old yet, mom. Give him time, mom. And, I got that whole spiel. So, needless to say, based on my experience, I do know that a child who talks late can end up having difficulties with reading and certain other learning difficulties. And so I wanted to meet this head on. So, of course, I took it upon myself to call the intervention services, which is the Easter Seal services here in Alabama. And we set up an appointment for an evaluation. And lo and behold, he was at that borderline. Basically, if they have a 25% deficit, then they would receive services. Or if they're at that, particular line where they just meet that 24 to 25%, it's totally up to the parent. Well, long story short, I chose for my son to have the services because it was really important to me that he began to speak. And so he had the services for probably about a year. And up until right before his third birthday, I want to say, yeah, he had just turned 3, I think. I think it was. But at that point in time, prior to him turning 3 years old, when I received the services, as we were going through the services, basically, I decided to do the Your Baby Can Read program with him. I purchased all the DVDs, the little flip books, the cards, you name it, I purchased it. And for the first 3 months using that program, I did not notice anything. Like, I sat him down in his high chair, gave him a snack. He only watched it while he was eating a meal. So it was either snack or lunch or something like that, breakfast. That he would be watching the videos during that time. And so for the first 3 months, I did not notice any change in his speaking abilities during that time. And it wasn't until probably, I want to say, going into the 4th month of using the program consistently. I was consistent with that program daily. I noticed that one of the videos has a part in the video. If you're familiar with the videos, there is a part where they show a word on the screen, then they tell you what that word is, and then towards the end of the video, there's sort of like a silent review, or a review where the audio is turned completely off of the video. So they'll show a word, no picture, just a word. They'll show the word, and they will not say the word on the video. They'll show either a word or a phrase. And I happened to be coming by his room. He's sitting in his high chair and he's eating his snack and he's watching the video. And I stopped to watch him, and I noticed that he had his arms raised in the air. And I was wondering, like, what? And I look at the video, it says, raise your hands on the screen. But it didn't say it so that he could hear it. Then it showed the phrase, clap your hands. He began to clap his hands. And again, there's no audio. So what seems to me would be he's reading. So I'm like, oh my God, this is fantastic. At this point in time, he still was not speaking in full sentences at this point. So I noticed that he was reading the screen, and I have this cute little video, and if I can attach it, I will. But I have this cute little video of him when he's about 2.5 years old. And at that point in time, we began to work with the flashcards of the Your Baby Can Read flashcards, and he began to actually read the words. It was absolutely an amazing journey for me. And I guess I considered all of that I'd gone through part of my homeschooling um, journey with him. That was sort of the beginning of things. And if we move a little bit forward, I noticed that he also had some, he was very rambunctious. Let me put it that way. Okay. So he was the most rambunctious toddler and preschooler that I had. I probably had about four other children that I was caring for in my home at that time. And he was the roughest one of them all. And so, needless to say, I noticed some things that were a little bit concerning, but I wasn't absolutely sure. I took him to his pediatrician, and we did have him evaluated further. And it was determined through extensive evaluations with a child psychologist, behavioralist, and so forth that he was not only ADHD. At this point in time, he was four. He's 4.5. So he was not only ADHD, but that he was also high functioning autism, and he tested 144 for his IQ. He tested as superior, as having superior intelligence. 144 was his IQ score at the age of 4, and from what the doctor told me, that was a depressed score. So I say all of this to say that in the beginning, when we began to homeschool, um, basically he taught himself. I exposed him with videos, music, experiences, and different things like that. But truth be told, even though he received speech therapy for his speaking, once he did begin to speak at the age of 3, he also began to read. I mean, his reading picked up like this. He literally began to read words, sight words. He ate them for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Numbers, colors, shapes, you name it, he knew it. The day that I found out that he actually knew his alphabet, because we were just working on speech skills, we were just working on speaking and so forth. So I never sat down with him with a bunch of flashcards with his alphabet and taught him his alphabet. No, he knew those. Mommy, that's E. Mommy, that's L. And I was really, really surprised that he knew them. And I asked him all the letters. He knew all of the letters. He could recognize them. I asked him about the sounds. Knew all the sounds. And I'm looking like, this kid, like, where does he come from at this point? Because I mean, I'm thinking, here's a kid who had problems speaking or spoke late, yet I mean, he's on point. He's reading at 3. At this point, he's like absorbing, and he is literally just, picking up everything. Things that I've never taught him his um, multiplication tables. He learned how to add and subtract, really, the fact families. He learned those all on his own. So, dealing with the behavior, I thought it would be best maybe if he attended a private school. So I took him and I enrolled him in a pre-K 4 program. And mainly because, like I said, we were having some issues behaviorally here at home with my daycare kids. And I thought, you know what, maybe it's me. Maybe he just needs some, away from mommy time type thing. And maybe his behavior would improve and so forth. Needless to say, that was not the answer. Um, he excelled at everything that he did in school. As a matter of fact, he was in the pre-K 4 class, and they had to remove him from the K 4 class during nap time to work with the first grade teacher with his reading and his math. He was what they considered a top dog every single day, or every single week rather, which meant that he was excelling in reading. He was taking the AR exams at that point in time. They had these little computer comprehension quizzes that he would take, and he's 4 at this point. He was 4 going on 5, 4.5 years old. I mean, super, super smart. basically bragged about him. Oh, we've got this really smart, genius 4-year-old here, and so, but we still were having some behavioral issues. So lo and behold, probably in December, towards the Christmas break, I decided not to send him back to school. I didn't want to send him back because we were having, like I said, some behavioral issues, and I wanted to, just kind of start again from scratch, like give him a fresh start and not have him have that type of, um, reputation as that kid. But he was very, very intelligent. He loved school. They actually called, the principal called me and asked me to bring him back. And I said, well, no, I decided not to bring him back. And I told her why. And she said, listen, please bring him back. We will give you free tuition if you bring him back. And I'm like, it wasn't money. That wasn't the reason why. And she said, listen, we really would love for him to finish out the school year and so forth. And, I relented and allowed him to finish out the school year. But I did not bring him back the next year. This was a very good school. This was a private school. It was a preparatory school, a college prep school. They considered themselves preparatory. And I say college prep because, that is what their goal is at the end of their 5th grade. And then they work with high schools that go on to college. But in any case, I didn't send him back, and one of the reasons why was because I wanted to homeschool him, for one. We were still having behavioral issues. That was another. And the third reason was because when I spoke to the principal about allowing him to skip kindergarten and just go to 1st grade, because he was already reading on the 2nd grade level at that point. He was already doing 2nd grade math. And he was working with a 1st grade teacher doing 1st and 2nd grade math. So I figured, well, what possible point would it be for him to go to kindergarten? And they said, well, he's a little immature, mommy, and such and such, and we really want him to be with his age group. And so there you have it. In a nutshell, I decided to pull him out or not enroll him in for the next year, for the following year, and kept him home with me and decided to homeschool him. With that being said, we breezed through curriculum after curriculum. Basically, we used the Abeka curriculum when he came home, and I realized that it was a waste of money. Buying box curriculum for him at that point was a complete waste of money. When I brought him home after the end of the school year in May, we started homeschooling probably about August of the following year. So he was 5 at that point, and I started him with the 2nd grade curriculum, and he breezed right through it. Within 3 months, he was done with the Abeka box curriculum, and we started 3rd grade because he literally was ready for it at that point in time. And so we started the 3rd grade curriculum. But at that point, I'm going, what in the world am I doing? I have no clue how to teach a child that is that gifted. Like, seriously. I've taught very intelligent children before. I've taught kids that, are ahead, maybe by a grade level, but this was on some level that I had never experienced before. So this was new for me. It was a new experience for me. So here I have this gifted kid that if he is not kept challenged, whoa, okay? And I'm pretty sure there are some of you parents who know exactly what I'm talking about. So I had to really, really keep him busy. And so I say that our homeschooling journey has evolved because it's constantly changing. It changed from the time that I brought him back home from school, from pre-K, and we first officially started homeschooling, to now. So I'm just going to fast forward so that this isn't a super long video for you guys. But I just wanted to give you that background so that you understand how we got to the point that we're at right now. been able to teach him math, and that is the God's honest truth. Um, he's been. I think math was the subject that we but we were like this. We butted heads constantly over math, and mainly because he loves math so much, but absolutely refused to write any answers on his math workbook. Yeah, just seriously. I come and I go, Xavier, you're still working on the same sheet, dude. I know you know this stuff. Let's just do the worksheets. Let's just boom, 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 get it done. Mommy, I already did it. Xavier, there's nothing on the paper. Mommy, I finished already. I know the answers. They're here. That's great, sweetie. Can you put them there on the paper? I mean, you know, I can't I can't check that you know the work unless you write the work on the paper, in the book. So we would go through that like constantly. And so one day I said to him, I said, okay, because he claims that Mommy, I know it already. It's here. Okay, what's this? What's that? And I'm pointing to each problem. And at this point, these were multiplication. This was 2 by 1, 2 digits by 1 digit multiplication. He was looking at them and literally giving me the answers. And I'm going, okay, well, next time just write it on paper like I said, because you're being disobedient. We get to that point because it's like, dude, you know. But in any case, I signed him up at that point, I decided, okay, I can't do math with this kid because, it's going to drive me crazy that he's not writing stuff on the paper. um, so I signed him up for time for learning. So we did time for learning for about maybe 2.5 years until he got bored with that. And then we had to change from time for learning. And we stopped doing time for learning and we did CTC math. We did CTC math for about a year and a half. Then I decided to try to go back to workbooks for math for him, and we tried Math Mammoth. That was an epic fail. He hates workbook math. Don't ask me why, but it was the same thing over and over again. We were not getting the work done. He did better with the online math because it was a matter of clicking the answers, writing it, tapping on the keys and putting them in, and that worked for him. And so we abandoned Math Mammoth, went back to CTC math, and now this year we're doing teaching textbooks. So as you can see, throughout our 8 years of homeschool, I have not taught him math. It's stressful for the both of us. And he's well beyond his years in math. I must say that he's well beyond his years. He is 12 years old, should be in chronologically 6th grade, but he's in 8th grade. So he's doing 8th grade math. He's doing 8th grade curriculum this year. We are now at a crossroads where we are having some difficulty with motivation. And I would say we go through these hills and valleys, mountains, and where we get to a point where we go through a phase where we are eating everything that is academic. We are absorbing, and he's just devouring it. And then we get to phases where it's like pulling teeth to get anything out of him. Pulling teeth for him to read. Mind you, he reads on a 12th grade level. Tested reading level is 12th grade. His tested vocabulary level is 12th grade. His tested comprehension level is grade appropriate. It is 6th grade because he is only interested in reading books on his interest level, which is 6th grade. So anywhere between 6th to 7th grade, that's his reading interest level. So his comprehension matches that. But his spelling, vocabulary is way beyond his years. It is high school level. He is in 8th grade math. So he is well beyond what he needs in terms of the core. And we do focus a lot on hands-on We do a lot of STEM, we do a lot of science, we do a lot of um, Black history. So we do a lot of other subjects as well, but my focus was mainly on the core. So where we are today, this is where we are today. A couple of years ago, well, before I start talking about today, a couple of years ago, I decided that unschooling Xavier would be the best option for us. And mainly because working with my homeschool kids that I have now, because I graduated from having daycare kids to having homeschool kids, where I teach school age children in my home along with Xavier. And so we were having a difficult time with him being in. We have a homeschool classroom. I'm sitting in my library now. We have a homeschool classroom and library, and this is where the magic happens, essentially. And so I noticed that we had a problem with him being in directly in the classroom with the other kids. He wanted to give all the answers. No one else could ever answer. He got frustrated if I had to stop what I was doing to take time to help someone else. He moved along so quickly that he literally needed to work on his own. I was holding him back by having him to work at the pace that the other children were working. Even though I was giving him more advanced work, even though he was working on things that would definitely challenge him, it was still very difficult. And so we decided that unschooling would work a little bit better for him. And so the method of unschooling that we chose to do was that he would not work in our classroom, our homeschool classroom and library. He would work in the rest of the house, essentially would be his. He could either work in my room, there's a desk in my room, he could either work in a desk in his room, he could work in the living room, he could work, anywhere in the house, he could work in the backyard, wherever. Wherever he wanted, he could work. And we did do a schedule where he would be responsible for completing his assignments on his own, at his own pace, whatever assignment that he wanted to complete. And it didn't have to be in any specific order. That worked for us for a while. And that's what we considered unschooling. Just him literally out of our homeschool classroom was unschooling for us. Him being able to work at his own pace with his own schedule and a schedule that fit his needs. And that worked great for us for the last couple of years. And what I've noticed in the past year, that has changed. And so here we are today. Finally, the purpose of this video. If you've made it, if you've stuck with me throughout that whole thing, I'm so sorry for boring you half to death. But this is the point that we are now. We're now at a point where I feel as if he has lost some luster of learning, for learning. Just I feel as if one of the purposes of homeschooling or having your children home with you and schooling them or teaching them, because I'm trying not to use those words. See, this is one of the things that needs to change with me. My thought process. I'm type A. I need a schedule. I need to plan. I need curriculum, and he's now on a path where he does not require that. We are going to get back to our roots. We're going to get back to the way he learned when he was a toddler. When he was a toddler and a preschooler, despite his speech, he learned his own alphabet. He learned his own numbers. He learned his own colors. He taught himself these things using the materials that I had available, using the experiences that I was able to give him, using the opportunities around him. He learned on his own. He's always been a self-motivated learner, and I can see the fire in his eyes dimming when it comes to that. And so it's time to get back to that. Even though that's not how my brain works, it's how his works. And so now I am researching and finding new ways that will accommodate the way that he learns. And in doing so, the best solution is none at all. There you have it. Yeah, none. There is no curriculum. There is no plan. I will not be planning. I will not be purchasing any curriculum for him. I will not be doing anything. We're going to go back to the self-directed learning that he did as a toddler and preschooler when he taught himself. We're going to go back to that now. And I think, how did we get to a point where I felt like I had to teach him everything when he clearly showed me that he was capable of teaching himself with support, with guidance from me? He was able to teach himself. Why did I get to a point? How did we get to a point where I felt like I had to teach him? And I'll tell you. We got to that point because when the child psychologist told me that he was gifted and told me that what his IQ was and that he was possibly bored, I felt it was my duty to make sure that he was not bored, to make sure that he did not lose his edge. And so I set about making sure that I had the right curriculum for him, that I had the right lesson plan, that we had the right, activities going for him, making sure, okay, he's got to keep that edge. That's what this has been about for me. And in the process, I've lost him, in a sense. Just the fire that he had for learning. And it's not gone out completely, but it's dimming. He's that child that has taught himself to work a Rubik's Cube. I have yet to figure this thing out. Okay? Not only did he teach himself how to do it, he has perfected it. He taught himself, basically, I taught him the game of chess, and then he took it from there, and it was a wrap. He learned how to master the game of chess. Now, he's not a grandmaster, mind you. He still has a lot to learn in the game of chess, but, I mean, he's an amazing chess player. Anything that he really puts his mind to do, he excels at it. And I just need to trust that the things that he wants to learn, I will support him in doing so and allow him the opportunity to teach himself, just with my guidance, with my support, and with my encouragement. So basically, he will rise when he wants to. He will go to bed when he wants to, and hopefully the thing that he learns from that is, if I don't get enough sleep, I can't function. Because I cannot teach him everything. Some things I can't teach, and I keep doing the quote things. He does this all the time, and I'm always like, why do you quote everything? So it's really funny that I'm constantly doing that. But why do I feel like I need to teach him some things I can't teach? You can talk to your blue in the face, your children, about certain things, and the fact still remains that natural consequences will always be the better teacher. As much as we can say, hey, that stove is hot, don't touch it. They're going to touch that stove, aren't they? I don't care what you do. They're going to touch it. They're going to try to see if it's hot. So natural consequences. And so that's where we are at 12 years old. I feel like not that there isn't anything that I can teach him. No, by no means. But I do feel like when it comes to academics, I feel like he's going to be okay. I feel like whatever it is that he plans to do, he has the personality that whatever it is that he plans to do with his life, he's going to excel at it because that's his personality. Whatever it is that he likes to do, when he wants to do it, he has to do it well because that's him. He's always wanted to skateboard. He started skateboarding at the age of 4. He I bought him a skateboard. I encouraged him. I even bought him those little skateboard ramps. He eventually put the skateboard away, and um, he still liked to skateboard, but it wasn't a major activity of his for a while. The last couple of years, he's been this skateboarding fanatic. you know, he had to learn every trick. Now he has to master everything. So now he's at a point where he's ready. He picked up the skateboard again. He's ready to learn all the tricks there are to skateboarding, and he is gung ho about it. He's watching videos about it. He is researching the different names of the tricks. He's learned the people that go along with that, the famous people that, the skateboarders and, whatever their names are. So he's immersed himself completely. So essentially, that is what I'm saying. When there is something that he's passionate about, he will, and he's confident that he can do it, he will completely immerse himself without me. Without me. He needs me to drive him to the skate park. Yep, I do that. We started going to the skate park more often before this whole